So last night, I said to you that stuff about Ashley Louise and the scamming and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
last night they had a whole Twitter Spaces. Apparently they went till 2 in the morning. I was not involved. Yeah, there was like, it was a whole Anna Delvey situation. So good morning to everybody that's just joining the live. I'm talking about the drama that went down on Black Twitter last night because Ashley Louise, aka the famous moderator who saw a meteoric rise during the times of Clubhouse, has been accused by multiple different individuals of being a scammer. And they had a few Twitter spaces about it last night, and it was trending under the hashtag rise from the ashes.
What?
Rise from the ashes, because her name's Ashley Louise.
Who's supposed to be rising from the ashes though? She is.
I guess, like, I don't know, because that's what I thought it was, maybe her redemption arc, but no, I think it was like the victims were supposed to like rise. But what was quite interesting about the whole thing was that, like, people, for whatever reason, and like I think there's a multiple reason, and she isn't necessarily like the kind of friendliest character or whatever. She's quite dismissive and could have been quite rude at times. So people were kind of coming in with on the side of the victims, and I'm saying victims in inverted commas or whatever, who a lot of them were her friends or people known to her or whatever. And so they came in on that side, and people were like, these people have a bad attitude. Like, I've never seen so many people like cap their sympathy for, like, they're like, I agree this happened to you and it's outrageous, but your attitude stinks. And it was just so crazy how many people were like, well, I can see why they were friends, well, I can see why you got scammed. I was like, oh damn, imagine you're the victim of a crime and people are like, well,
You can't ask for it. I mean,
maybe you deserved it. Like, even though we hate the person that did it to you. So
yeah. We hate them, we're not so fond of you.
exactly. So, we're kind of 50-50. Like, we can't give you the whole sympathy because we need to take that for like more virtuous victims.
You get the silver package of empathy and sympathy.
100%. But it always has to be layers and tiers to this as well.
Oh dear. So, I mean, how much money did she scam overall?
So I think the thing is, she seems to scam like small amounts, but like frequently. So she does things like apparently have events that don't take place. So there was one. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh because I like any money that, like, I'm an accountant, so I've dealt with fraud and stuff like that, and any fraud is fraud. It doesn't matter if it's a pound or it's a million, so any fraud is fraud. But so she had this event, I think it was called Talks with Ash or whatever, where she was like pressure selling a little bit. So she'd reach out to all these people and be like, oh, hun, hi, hun, hi, babe, we're doing an event, it's going to be really great, we've got bowling, we've got this, we've got that, da, da, da. It's £100. And if they're like, oh yeah, like, I'll see, because I'm not sure if I'm around, they're like, oh, spaces are running tight, like, do you want to just get it in, and if anything, I'll just refund you. Bitch, not only did she not refund, because the thing didn't even take place, she just went ghost on people, right? So she was getting all these little £100. There's also like, she had this meteoric rise, as I said, on Clubhouse, and then after that she transitioned to Twitter Spaces. So in Twitter Spaces she would talk about Love Island a lot. Now, I didn't go into this, I don't watch Love Island, so I didn't go into the spaces and whatever, but apparently her Twitter Spaces, if that's what they're called, because in Clubhouse they were called rooms, but I'm going to say her spaces were popping, like they were really popular, but she never quite like secured that recognition from Love Island itself. So she didn't, I don't know, I think there's like a panel that you could get onto, whatever. She never really got that. Anyway, apparently she then said to some people,
before you continue, do we have to put allegedly before we say any of this, so this has all been confirmed and this is what people are running with?
This is what's out there. Like, no, so all the things I'm saying are true. So she definitely had the Twitter Spaces. She definitely did the Love Island thing.
I don't want her to do more fraud and then fraud some lawyer money and start suing.
It's all good. It's all good because I'm here for it. But also the whole, she hasn't denied the claim that so a group of her friends have come out and said, you owe us $7,000, because she apparently had put out this thing saying, I've got an arrangement with British Airways. And they're going to fly us to Jamaica, a destination Love Island apparently has never associated themselves with. But to be involved in this exclusive arrangement, you need to give me, it's going to be $7,000 each, and we need deposits. So she collected all those deposits. And then I'm not sure if that whole timings, but also she now has a gastric sleeve, and she's now like, so she had a gastric sleeve in Turkey, which people were like, oh, that's around $7,000. and then and now she's doing up my weight loss journey and what to eat and all of this kind of stuff online. This is all verifiable stuff. You can go on social media and you can check. Like, she hasn't taken it down. But when they made the claim, so they came out with this public statement saying, like, we as a collective have been scammed by Ashley Louise Pottinger or whatever her name is. And she came back and she was like, they can get their money in blood or something. Like, she came back with
I did see that. I did that when she went for the Pooh Shiesty reply to say,
yeah, she didn't say, oh, I don't know you. And then she was like, also, I don't know why you're calling all these people my friends. The only one that was my friend was Riskat. Like, the rest of them, I don't even know them girls, like that. So it's like all kicking off. She's now deleted those tweets, but honey, like, the internet is forever. So they're still very much available for people to view. So yeah, it was all picking up. So I didn't stay up until 2 because I had a live to do. And, you know, also at my age, I can't do that stuff anymore.
No, I don't have it in me anymore. The online grift, I feel like it's something that I still don't fully grasp yet. And I'm worried that I said it online because then somebody might say, if you want to be more informed about online grifts, then you could come to this course.
You should do that, but that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is that, like, I tend to think, and I don't know about you, but do you not find that, and you'll probably see this in entertainment, that people present themselves in a certain way, like for whoever, and then a lot of people like them, and then you know that person, you're like, oh, they're not really like that. But I feel like she was somebody that showed who she was from the beginning. Like, she was always really dismissive and rude, and so I felt like to be honest, it was unsurprising that the people that were around her that eventually got scammed were some of like mean girl type people, because she was just always was really abrupt with people, quite rude, quite condescending and stuff like that. And so I was like, who is looking at this person and believing them? And so I wonder if it isn't that proximity to celebrity, because I mean, she wasn't a celebrity, but she had loads of followers on Clubhouse, and then she does these Twitter space. So, and also she kept up that illusion. Don't get me wrong. So she kept up this illusion that I've got all these brand deals and I'm like so popping. And she probably, I don't know, got some little PR. So she was doing some step and repeats and whatever. And kept up that illusion. So good for her. Good for her. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was one of the people that I was like, oh, okay, she actually managed to convert Clubhouse popularity. Like, good for her or whatever. But I'm thoroughly unsurprised by the accusations that she scammed people. Like, at one point, she was charging people to come on the stage in Clubhouse. Like, so she'll be like £100 if you want to come on my stage. And then she also
Clubhouse, or is that something they offer? But she was just like, well, if you want.
No, it was not a monetized platform. So she used to host rooms and was like, hi babe, if you want to come on my stage, I get loads of people. Do you want? And I'm like, okay. And then she tried to defend that apparently, but it was like, okay, bitch, but what's the return on investment? Like, you're saying you've got loads of people there. People doesn't convert into sales or whatever for my business. So anyway, that all happened. So now people are like preying on her downfall. I'm not, because like, I don't, not because I feel any affinity with her at all, but like, if people want their retribution, that's up to them. But I'm just not, this particular witch hunt, I'm not involved in. Like, that's all I'm saying. It's not because I don't believe them. I completely believe them, and I do believe in restorative justice. I don't know necessarily that that's going to come from a huge crowd of people with pitchforks, because if she don't have the money, she don't have the money. Like, that's the problem.
She ate the money. That's why she said, if you want it, come back and get it in blood.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if she eats it, because I don't think you have space. I'm not sure, because there are different things. There are like gastric sleeves and gastric something else and bands, and I think they're all kind of slightly different or whatever. But my favorite thing is, like, I've had, and apparently also she was taking Wegovy, like, so Ozempic, like one of the versions. So she was also doing that. So I was like, but those things are expensive. And I was like, well, no wonder, babes. Like, she had to do that to get onto the next chapter of her life. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't just,
that doesn't involve the rest of these people.
Yeah. Now she's skinny. Like, who the hell are you? Like, dude, no. That was the old me. Can you
Clubhouse? That was so 2000.
That was so me when I was a size 18. Like, now I'm a size 8. Okay, sweetheart. There
are probably people that need to hear that story and will say that my toxicity was related to my weight, and now that I've lost it,
exactly. She shed all that toxicity. Doesn't that work?
Yeah, and it was low vibrational.
Melted away.
I need to forget about it.
So like, we've got our own little Anna Delvey coming up. I mean, you know what? To be honest with you, I feel that she needs to aim higher, because Anna Delvey was with the shits. Like, she was staying in like big plush hotels, like little 2-bit scams like that. I need you to go bigger, honey. I need you to go bigger.
What you need to do is reinvent yourself and having drastic weight loss is a great way of doing that. So just be patient with that.
Oh, that's true. That's maybe we're seeing the start of something.
Yeah,
We're
she also
here
might
for
have
the
some
journey.
money left over to maybe change her name by deed poll and maybe change her hair color. The point is that like this is the new landscape, and for people that feel they need someone to rally behind, or that people that want to be financially humiliated or sometimes just mildly extorted, then there's got people out there to do that.
Well,
And
there are
at this point, I'd
similar
like to
circles.
remind people in the live that my work has been severely damaged, and I have a family to feed. Black guy, how many kids does he have? Blah blah blah. All that shit. I don't
Just
know.
say loads. Just say loads.
Yeah,
Go for
loads. I got loads of kids, and what I don't have is the benefit of having rappers knowing about that and bringing them up in songs. So I have to go around telling every people how many kids I have, which is very, very tiring. But if you want me to shout up about my kids, then please donate to my Patreon.
Exactly.
Details are found online. Just send it to my app.
Do it. That's what I do. When people are like, "How many kids have you got?" I was like, "All of you," because all you bitches is my sons. That's what I was just like.
I'm just saying, I'm just trying to have longevity in my career, and people out there must be looking at my hairline and saying to themselves, how is that possible? How can he feed these children when I don't have the youth required for me to postulate as a comedy legend on broadcast media? For the small price of about 4 bags plus another 2 bags for expenses, you can send Dane Baptiste to Turkey to get his Dominican waves attached to his head, Akon style, which will be a good return on investment because I've got at least another 2.5 centimeters of headline of forehead for that graft that Akon does not have. So if you're out here watching this live, just have to think about that, please. Yeah, man, let me get fresh for the summertime because it is summer right now. We're just getting over our
Sorry, I just wanted to make you aware because obviously I get some comments coming in from from YouTube, and I've had someone say, "How would you achieve a hairline if you don't have hair?"
Do you know what? Yeah, my mental health has also suffered as a result of comments like this. For £6,000, I can get the therapy I need. And fine, whoever that is, just a wig then. Listen, I don't know. I have to go for the consultation. That's the point. That's the point.
The consultation, yeah.
That's the point. I need a consultation to work out if this is going to be.
And that costs money as well. So
money.
She's Patreon.
That costs money, at least. Also, I've got a mustache. Shut up, everybody. That's hair.
Exactly. There's also hair in other parts of his body. They can transfer that stuff, okay?
They want to take that from my shoulder back and put it on my head to make Dominican waves. Why are you standing in the way of that? What's wrong with you people? Your vibrations are low is what it is.
You know what? Some people just don't have a growth mindset. So
some people do not have a hair growth mindset, and it is a good thing. That is
challenged. Okay, so let's get serious. What have we got today?
Well, obviously, it is the summertime. I think we're just getting over our next heat wave, and when the summertime comes, tensions run high, and civil unrest is taking place all across the UK. As much as people think it wouldn't happen here, we are experiencing some very deep, very troubling racial tensions in the United Kingdom at the moment. This begins with the very grave stabbing we had this week in Southport, where a 17-year-old attacked in a weird frenzied attack at a Taylor Swift dance school has injured over 12 people and unfortunately killed 3 young girls, all under the age of 9 years old. So we're very lots. As much as I hate to say it, our thoughts and our deepest sympathies and condolences go out to the families involved and to the entire city of Southport, or the town of Southport, that has been affected by this. But never one to miss the opportunity to politically capitalize on tragedy. Nigel Farage and Lee Anderson, among others, including Lawrence Fox, have been spreading disinformation this week across the internet, telling people that the perpetrator of the stabbing, the 17-year-old, is a foreign national from an Islamic country that they couldn't name, but they just said, yeah, he's come over on a boat with a knife and he's a Muslim, which is not true at all. This is a Welsh teenager who was born in Cardiff and moved to Southport with his family and was raised as a Christian by his Rwandan immigrant parents. But somehow in a series of whispers. I won't say Chinese because that will piss them off. Yeah, somehow he's turned out to be a Muslim foreign national, and this has led to riots in Southport, led by, I don't know if they're still called the EDL or Reform, but
I think
basically
they're all the same
the racist white
iterations.
men, then basically the
Yeah.
racist the racist white brothers, them, and a few token. There's got to be like 3 or 4 token ethnics as well.
Hmm.
But they basically, yeah, have been rioting in Southport, Manchester, Hartlepool, Westminster, loads of places where which had absolutely nothing to do with the murders at all,
Mm.
and yeah, have caused considerable damage to these cities, and are doing so under the pretense that they are keeping their girls safe or because they want their country back. What that has to do with writing in Hartlepool, I do not know. But here's where we are. I mean, I'm always watching these things on the basis that just a mere 4 years ago, we were living in a country where the Minister for Racial Equality, who now does not have that job, was insisting that racism was not an issue in the country, as well as having a Home Secretary who has continued to push the narrative that Muslim grooming gangs are responsible for all of the child abuse that takes place in the UK, despite the fact that her own office confirmed that it's actually white men who normally are found to be involved in the largest child abuse rings in the country. Not that that actually matters, because what the point is that no one really seems to give a shit about the children that are involved or children being vulnerable or at risk in general.
Yeah.
Which I always find it's very interesting that you can always find these guys in violent protests. You can always find them in riots. You can always find them on the terraces of football games. You know where you never see them taking pictures with any charities for vulnerable young girls. You never see them protesting about the lack of feminine hygiene products available to young girls in schools. You never see them protesting the fact that the government continues to divest from and underfund both child protective and social services. But if they feel like a Muslim has done something, even though in many cases they haven't, they can't wait a second before they start beefing, which is mad because I swear one of the biggest donors for the Reform Party is also Muslim. So
And this is the thing. I think I saw as well that they had one of the individuals that was taking part in the riots got arrested after he went home and domestic violence occurred in his house. So apparently he doesn't mind violence being perpetrated against women or children as long as he's the one that's doing it. And if that isn't like a damning indictment of the fact, do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
of how shallow and like flimsy this so-called argument is for the reason that they're doing this is actually ridiculous. And I think this idea that they really give a shit about kids, right? Because they'll say to you, it's not about like racism, it's not about black and brown kids or whatever. Did a black child not just get killed with a sword the other day? I didn't see them rioting.
nope.
I didn't see them doing anything about that.
Well, also in the same week, like Q Edwards has been charged with generating images of
And
you know,
where were the riots there?
no riots outside Westminster Magistrates Court. Lucy Letby, who a few months ago was again convicted of attempted murder of 2 newborns, and there was no writing, there was no calls for the NHS to receive more funding in order to be able to scrutinise the actions of people like Lucy Letby. So yeah, it does make me wonder, because like I even recall back to during the pandemic where the Conservative government decided that they weren't going to feed impoverished children during the summertime and vulnerable kids, and I didn't hear anything from Tommy Robinson or from Lee Anderson. Or in fact, Lee Anderson was like, "Oh, who cares? You can make a meal for 30p." To this day, we're still trying to work out what meal this is
Which
going
meal
to
is
be.
that? You can't even, can you even get a Freddo for 30p at
I
these
don't think
points?
you can even get a Freddo anymore for 30p,
But
or even
here's
half a Twix in a packet of 2 Twixes.
so here's the thing as well. So, and it's really interesting that you bring up like Hugh Edwards and Lucy Letby and whatever, because that is, you know, like this horrific thing that's happened in Southport. We at this point don't have evidence that, and not that there should be, but outside of this incident that this person has done that to, it's not been systematic. Well, we know that for Hugh Edwards, we know that for Lucy Letby, and yet there's silence. And it's kind of like, if this isn't an indication, because I think there are genuinely some people, okay, let me just backtrack. These people for me are clearly, they're racist, right? And they're using this as a reason to go and, you
Yeah,
know,
they feel,
be violent and
feel
do all of
massively
these other
empowered,
things.
as I'm sure they have done over the last, well, particularly in the last 5 years.
Yeah. But I do also believe there are people. So I think there'll be those people in the the center that are like just genuinely racist. They just need any, like, do you know what I mean? Like they'll see a brown bear and they'll just start like writing. They're like, no, there's all these fucking bears. We need polar bears. You know, like that kind of stuff.
They'll see hash brown on their breakfast plate and be like, "Oh, fucking
Yeah,
pudding!
yeah.
Yeah,
What are you talking about? It's not even fucking yeah, like that.
that pudding. Why don't you make white pudding in this fucking cafe? What's happened to my country?"
They're the reason we have interactive whiteboards, because the blackboard was just like, what are you teaching kids in our school? You know what I mean? Like that. I feel like it isn't. Everyone thought it was innovation in technology. No, it wasn't. It was because these people don't want blackboards anymore. But so what I'm saying is, like, you have those people that's just core at their heart. That's like their raison d'etre. Then there'll be like circles around that are still degrees of racism, but not as invested in the racism. Do you know what I mean? Like they kind of go either way. They're like, I really like that little, you know, the blackie that's at my work. He's all right. Do you know what I mean? I don't, whatever, as long as you drink tea with them. But I also think that among those outer layers, there are people that believe those people are really doing it for children. And I think that actually the inaction when the perpetrator is white, such as Hugh Edwards, such as Lucy Letby, should clearly demonstrate to those people that have less degrees of racism within them that this is nothing to do with protecting children. It's nothing to do with it. And I think that it reminds me of the like pro-life debate, and I don't say pro-life, but do you know what I mean, in the US in particular, when they talk about, oh, I'm not you know, it's not that I'm trying to control people, I'm pro-life, I just believe life begins at conception. Okay, but when the child emerges from a woman's uterus, that is a life too, and as soon as it does, you don't give a shit about it. Do you know what I mean? Like that child can be poor, you will consistently vote against policies that will help that child, but so that's what makes it about control, because you don't actually care. If you really cared about life, there are kids, why don't you adopt those kids? You know what, why are you forcing children to be here that don't? So this is the thing, I think that's a clear demonstration, and it's really really good points that you brought up in terms of Hugh and Lucy Letby's and all of these other people, and even just when their lack of response to government policy that is clearly not serving, you know, children and that younger generation. I mean, they'll sit there and I'm pretty sure they'll be like, well, we don't like the 2-child cap for child benefits. Oh yeah, well, that's 1.7 million children have been proven to be in poverty as a result of that. But they'll be like, well, I don't know, why do we need to pay for the children? Well, I thought we were protecting children. Yeah. So we want them to be there. We don't mind if they don't eat. We don't mind if they're starving. We don't care about their child. We just want to make sure that brown people and black people who are the supposed boogeyman now are not doing, like, what is it that you want? Because what I know is Marcus Rashford was out here feeding kids when you guys weren't doing a damn thing.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing as well, and I just think it's very strange that there's never really been any recorded or overt discussion from a lot of these interest groups, whether they're led by Tommy Robinson with the EDL, whether it's the Reform Party led by Nigel Farage. There's never really any discussion about the key demographic of the white working class and their problems when it comes to access to healthcare or housing or employment. Like, you know, I'd imagine like something like the HS2, or there'd be a lot of white working class people that work for or members of the RMT as well. There's no discussion about like how to protect their jobs. And it just seems to be like this, the Taylor Soldiers time, that it would either be this trafficking in or leveraging of employment opportunities, or the trafficking of women that are used and weaponized against marginalized communities or minorities as well. Because essentially these guys, I mean, this is obviously a massive tragedy, and it definitely will make people angry. And that's normally the response that elicits from people, when, especially when it's a loss of young, innocent life. People will become very angry, and they will need a way or need somewhere they can direct that anger. And there are always going to be opportunists like people like Nigel Farage and people like Lawrence Fox, people who, you know, literally in Lawrence Fox's case, don't even see his own children.
Billy is not about letting that
one. That will try to direct that anger and hostility towards communities who have no responsibility for whatsoever. Because you'd think, like, if you want your country back, you wouldn't be throwing bricks through windows and mashing up people's property, because that is your country. Yeah. So it's very strange.
I'm also curious, and there's a question that I want to put to you that's coming from somebody, but I'm also curious, like, what is the outcome that they're seeking by doing this? Like, what is it that they think is going to happen as a result. Do you know what I mean? So, but I just want to ask this question, as this is your topic. Somebody said, what's your opinion on race relations in the UK? Is there any hope on the horizon?
My personal opinion about the state of race relations in the UK is that I think race relations are something that it's like integrity. You have to kind of practice it a lot of the time. So that tension can change and it can wax and wane throughout generations. But I think that it's important that whenever you're looking at the state of race relations or any kind of interpersonal, intercommunal relationships in the UK, you do so through the framework of looking at the economic state of the UK. Because normally these things are very much linked. And if you have access to resources or you don't feel like you are in a bad economic position, it's less likely you're going to harbor, or your racial hostility towards other groups is going to intensify. However, we have been experiencing austerity from about since 2008 and had 14 years of austerity under the Conservative government. And where they've fallen short of being able to provide people with resources, or where they are beginning to siphon off services and take taxpayer money and funding it into their own either vanity projects or literally just into lining their own pockets, what they've supplemented that with is very divisive rhetoric. And essentially, instead of going and solving issues of poverty and having a war on poverty, they decided instead that they will create these culture wars and distract people by letting them think that people who form less than 1% of the country's population are responsible for corrupting all of your children. Because again, going back to the subject of children, obviously this is something that's dear to all of our hearts, and most decent, non-sociopathic human beings care about children. But to see people try and create this narrative that the Islamic faith has a monopoly on child abuse, like the Catholic Church doesn't exist, is a madness. Because when I started doing stand-up comedy, every single white man, whether he be middle class or working class, had a paedophile joke. So it's something that we know is very endemic and is very much recognized as a part of the issues with Western civilization, or just global, basically the treatment of children on a global scale leaves a lot to be desired, even down to from a climatological standpoint, because we are fucking this planet. And we just yesterday also have now gone over the consumption limit, where basically we're now over the tipping point where we use more than we create. And that's not really going to bode well for us. But I just think in terms of race relations in the UK, I think that there's been significant improvements have been made. But the problem is that when the powers that be deliberately make policies or create narratives or ideologies that cause that to regress, it kind of sets us back. So, for example, I feel like, sometime around 4 or 5 years ago, we were starting to have, well, I'd say back during the pandemic, when everybody sit down and shut their mouth and observe, then I think that the murder of George Floyd was seen around the world and led to some very overt discussions about race. And while not lots of progress was made, I think even coming down to most people from marginalized or minority communities having words like microaggression coming to the fore, where it's like, it's not always people putting bullets in envelopes for your letterbox. It's not people always smashing your windows or spraying stuff, but people deal with casual racist narratives and rhetoric all the time, particularly in corporate situations, and nothing's ever done about it. So having those overt conversations led to a lot of progress. I think that the results of the Euros before last also, and the treatment of the black players then, brought a lot of conversations to the fore. But I think that there are, powers that be, particularly people who are in control of certain financial institutions, that have allowed that conversation to become derailed. And, a lot of that involves having people in the government who deny the existence of racism, people that have downplayed the role of how colonialism has damaged southern hemisphere countries. And they've done this all while, not doing their jobs at all. Because me personally, how you can say you're a minister for racial equality and then say, well, racial equality already exists, then why the fuck you take the job in the first place?
We started with grifters and here we are.
So I think race relations in the UK leaves much to be desired. And that's because I think the economic state of the UK leaves much to be desired, because what's happening instead is that rather than focusing on addressing the people that are responsible for our financial woes or the economic crisis we're experiencing in the UK, we are continuing to be distracted by a culture war where wherever you consider your pronouns to be or however you identify, if you consider yourself to be an English person, well, you still all need air to breathe and water to drink. And right now, your water is not clean right now. So I feel like that would be a good start to be protesting against, or not having any access to housing. I would probably start with that as well. Here's something to start with, yeah? We all need money, and you lot are worried that your job's getting stolen. Well, last time I checked, your government took 33 billion and spent that on a fuckery that didn't even work. And they then gave out another 300 million plus to their friends to make PP that never worked. So between 30p Lee and between Nigel Farage and Lawrence Fox, maybe you can do some quick white man maths and find out how to get some of this money back. You probably make a lot of people a lot happier. In the meantime, I guess we're going to have these people who continue to pretend that they're defending women, when we all know if you do the Venn diagram of men that put their hands on women during football games, whether they win or lose, and men that would have been rioting in Southport and Westminster and Hartlepool, it would be a perfect circle.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so yeah. I mean, I will say though, obviously, it's very serious that if you are from both sub-Saharan African communities or Muslim communities, be safe out there, because yeah, these men are out here doing madnesses, and I'm sure people in London will be safe, but yeah, we don't all live in multicultural metropolises around the country. Some of you decided to move to
some of you decided to move to the Shire,
and I blame you for that. You should be able to pursue happiness wherever you live, but just please be vigilant. Make sure that your kids are safe, and yeah, we have to come together and solve the spectre of white supremacy and Anglo racism, because it is making a comeback like those high-waisted jeans.
Oh, okay. So don't call it a comeback when it never left, though. But
we cut off here and there, innit? And it's just back in
exactly.
the public consciousness.
Girl, I was just resting. I didn't go anywhere. So yeah. So anyway, we always like to end on a lighter note. So I've got some I feel good stories from the Olympics for us to end with, because I haven't actually. This is really funny. I don't know what it is. I think it's just because I haven't really clocked where to watch it, and also the build up to this Olympics wasn't as great as it could have been, right? Like I feel like in other years, like I still remember Barcelona, it's a beautiful, do you know what I mean? Like there are things that stick in your head, whereas this one, Paris has just been low-key. Obviously they've been fighting the far right over there. They've had that like whole political thing that going on, and I think they just forgot they had the Olympics, to be honest with you, because I've got friends that live over there and they were like, listen, we're not ready, we are not ready. Okay, so
people they've been derailing trains, they've been vandalizing.
Yeah. And you know their civil unrest is really unresty. Yeah, Paris, you know I mean? Like, and uncivil, and I love that for them. So one of the things about France is that they don't do things by halves. And one of the things they also don't do by halves is racism, which is really like ironic, because if you know anything about French history and obviously French colonization, and they tried to colonize half of, Africa and whatever else that they did, there's loads of French speaking African nations because of that. So once you've done and drained all those resources, mind you, Jacques Chirac even said, without Africa, France would be a third world country. That's how much they pillage and take from that country, right? Wow. So because of that, tends to be represented in the population. You will have, children of ex-colonial places living in France, and they are French, right? So one of the biggest stars in the world, and the biggest star in France at the moment, is Aya Nakamura. Aya Nakamura is Malian descent. Oh, I think she may even have been born in Mali, but she is a big star. She's huge. She is like the face of French pop, right? So they were like, oh, we're going to have her in the opening ceremony.
Yeah, does she have a British equivalent? Does she have a British equivalent, Nakamura?
Stormzy, I would say, but I think maybe she's even a little bit bigger than Stormzy. So like that kind of thing. I know Stormzy's not necessarily the same genre, but who else have we? Not at them. I don't think we have somebody like that at the moment. Maybe Georgia Smith. But I don't know. I feel like Aya Nakamura is bigger. No, and the reason I say Georgia, because Americans know about Georgia Smith. Do you know what I mean? Like, so giving it that international. But I don't think we have that, because obviously, and again, if you are in the UK and you don't speak French and don't know whatever, but there are many other nations apart from France that do speak French. So Aya Nakamura she's that girl, right? She's that bitch. She's beautiful as well, everything. So she was touted to be part of the opening ceremony, and the French, just like their civil unrest, which is not like tacit and subtle, they were coming out and like, what do you think? This is not like some market in Bamako and all of this or whatever. So anyway, they were being their usual racist self. And she came out and she she was in the opening ceremony, and her song was like, and I forgot to bring up the words and the translation, but if you go and look it up, she's basically saying to them, oh, like, what, don't you understand my language or whatever, like really going back at these, and that's the way you do it, and you stunt on these haters, right? She was like, look at it, what is it, oh, you don't understand my language. So in England we have Shakespeare, when we talk about language, we're like, oh, it's like the Shakespearean. In France they have Molière. And so she even talks about this, oh, the language of Molière, don't you understand it? And then she starts going, okay, is it my nose? But she says nose in English, for example. And so, bruv, she was flexing on them. Yeah, like really flexing on them in that over. And I was like, that's my kind of petty. That's what I would do. So she did that, and it's going, all the kids are happy. All the enfants are happy. Look at that. Inclusive language there. Or the enfants on TikTok are very happily going over it, going, c'est mon nose, like this. So it's really good. So that was it. Yeah, we love that. So we love a good clap back. We love her, like, we stand like a beautiful queen that stands on business, and she's like, what are you doing though? Look, you holding your little sign. I'm up here singing, opening the Olympics. So bitch, we're not the same. So I love that. So that's my first feel good story. I think it's good, feel good. The second one, which is absolutely adorable. So, and it's also really great because they've just won. So if you don't know, the Kiwi women, All Blacks, have just won gold in the rugby sevens, right? And so I started following them because actually I used to play rugby when I was a kid.
Did you? What position?
I was out on the wing.
Nice. It's rugby union. Rugby union or league?
Union. That's the one where you tackle, right?
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, I always get confused. The proper rugby, like proper rugby, not the fake one. Yeah, like proper, I actually used to play for Gravesend Rugby Football Club. I know it sounds really ridiculous. I'll tell you the story another time. And I played on a boys team until the under-12s. So I think after under-12, boys and girls can't play together. So I think I played up until I was about that life. So anyway, but I was following the All Blacks, and the reason being because I came across this post, and it was Michaela Blyde, who is a Kiwi, and she is like super fast, right? She's on their team, and she's crying, and she's like, oh my God, I've just seen Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. And she's like so excited, but not crying like ridiculous crying, just like, you know, when you're so like, oh my God, like I'm just so happy that I've seen this person.
Like, I know.
Yeah, like I mean, people do that when they see me normally. So like I see it a lot. Do you know what I mean? So like when people see me, they're like, oh my God, I've just seen Z. Like, what? Oh my God, she's there, right? So anyway, so she's crying. So I was like, oh, that's really cute. So she tagged Shelly-Ann in it, and Shelly-Ann followed her and then liked it. So like, and then put hearts on it. So then there's another, I don't know where this video was, but I saw another video of her. And she's like, oh my God, she's following me. And like, she shows them. And so then there's this part where like all of her friends, like, well, all the people on the team are like, oh, you know, like, what should we say back? Like, they're trying to figure out a response because like to DM her. Anyway, then she meets her, and she's like crying. She's like, oh my God. She runs out, no fit. She's like, oh my God, I love you. And Shelly-Ann's beautiful and lovely and whatever. So then Shelly-Ann starts going to the games as well, and then like starts teaching them patois. So like there's videos of like the Kiwis learning to say, what is it? Wagwan goody, like that, and all that stuff like that, which is the crossover we didn't know we needed, but we did. And then they ended up winning, which I just think is fabulous. I just thought it was lovely, and I think it's something that's really great about the Olympics is that, you know, there's so much, well, there can be, we'll get to the next story, there can be so much mutual respect there for athletes. Like they have other people that they look up to and they get to meet them and stuff like that. So I thought that was really beautiful. So if you go on to Michaela Blyde, I think I've said her name right, it's her Instagram, you'll see like some of the stories, and like certainly the one of her crying or whatever, and then the development of that. Now, third story, the reason I said, oh, and they can be the GOAT, that is Simone Biles. Yeah. So obviously she's not been out of the headlines, just A, because she's amazing, but also B, because there's been issues about, you know, whether we're allowed to call her husband Mr. Simone Biles. Anyway, but we're going to move on from that. So Simone Biles, obviously, has come out, and she's the most decorated gymnast in American history. Like she just has things named after her. There's a Biles 1, a Biles 2. They have to like disallow.
There's literally things that she can do that people cannot do. Like
that they literally disallow. They're like, it's too difficult. We're not even allowing people to try and do that
because you know, sounds strange for an entire competition that is kind of like predicated on meritocracy.
Yeah, although that being said, like especially in like, so Olga Corbett had that as well when she did some mad backflip on the bars, and they were like, "Bitch, no one is trying to do that. Okay, we're gonna have a a line of people that just get paralyzed." So that can sometimes happen. She does. One of the things about Simone Biles, I think she's just one of these perfect specimens as well. Not that she doesn't have the work ethic and work hard, but she's small, which they love in gymnastics. She's like tight, like everything, and she has so much height when she goes into something. So a lot of the time people will jump and do their move on the way down. She does the move on the way up, which means she can get like 3 twists. And so I'm a gymnastics mom. I did gymnastics when I was a kid. That's why I know it. Anyway, we're gonna move on. So Simone Biles' ex-teammate Michaela Skinner, I think her name is Michaela. I don't know. You know when they spell the name funny, so you're not really sure how to pronounce it, like MYK or something. So she comes out and she does the video, and she's like, I don't know. Apart from Simone, I feel like there's the work ethic isn't really there anymore, and like basically like the team are lazy and nobody got shit to do. Like, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. So people were like, what the F? Because at this point, the team hadn't even like done all of the shit that they needed to do. So Simone was like, called her team name, fuck around and find out. Yeah. And so that's what she called it. And so guess what? The team won gold. So then Simone puts a picture of them up and captions it, "Oh, the lazy, no work ethic gold champions," yeah, as a clapback. And then all of the other people are like commenting, tagging Michaela, and apparently Simone and her team have now been blocked by Michaela on social media.
Michaela, come on now, buddy. That's so petty.
Listen. If you're gonna do it, stand by it. But I just think again, like this is the way that you get back on people. Like, hush now. You got something to say? Shh. Apparently, obviously, Michaela has some, when they dig in social media of certain people, and you always find exactly racism. So apparently there's been things that have been she said in the past or whatever that have been that. And I think this team, I think there's like one fully white person on the American team. I'm not sure, but I feel like the others are, like it's quite a diverse team or whatever, which is representative of the United States of America. So people are saying, oh, maybe that's also to do with it. She's just trying to kind of throw shade, but they threw it right back and they were like, here's some shade under my gold medal, bitch.
No, there's no better type of shade than winning and
being. Listen.
This happened when you weren't here, Michaela.
Exactly. Did you have something to say?
Poor Michaela. I never even heard of her until you brought up today. So hopefully maybe some less lucrative endorsements than Simone was getting will make her feel better. But I just it's just weird that they're not as good as before. Well, what did you do when you was there, Michaela? Is the question. I'm not going to shit on Michaela.
And also, where are you? Because if you're a teammate of Simone Biles, why are you not still competing? Because she is.
Right.
Okay, because you weren't good enough. Okay. So, I mean, and that's it. That's wrapping up. I think almost on time, like dead on time for us today, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure. There's been some dark and light. We do say again to anybody obviously that's been affected by the events in Southport, then I hope you have the appropriate support. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and their families as well. And keep watching coverage of the Olympics. We can only say so much because not like that we're paying us to be pundits anyway. Snoop Dogg is there, by the way.
I know, and Flavor
Flav, who finances the women's water polo team, America's.
I love this. And Snoop learning to swim with Michael Phelps is not what I thought I'd ever see, but here we are. But yes, we are both on the social media. If you would like to find me, I'm at The Reluctant Accountant. My name is Z. And Dane is everywhere, to be honest with you. I'm on Instagram and the TikTok and what's the other one? YouTube, but Dane's everywhere.
I am everywhere. Just find me on all your good socials. I'm on all the good ones apart from Snapchat because I'm like 40 now. So and just please stay tuned for more gigs, which I'll post on my page as well. But thank you very much for joining us on this breakfast banter. And hopefully we'll see you guys next week.
Peace and love.